Peace to the family, y'all. Peace. Peace, love, and light. Fuck. Peace, y'all. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome back, y'all. Peace. Peace, peace, love, and light. Peace to the family. Peace to you and yours. Welcome back. It's been a minute. It has been a minute. Yes, peace to the gods and the earth. You know? Peace, y'all. I titled this Peace. Okay, shout out to Dallas. I visited Dallas recently. I love Dallas. It's an amazing city. Sidebar. Yeah, Dallas, downtown Dallas, they got an amazing exhibit in the AT&T building. And the exhibit in the AT&T building is it's about fiber optics. And I heard this amazing account today on the Joe Rogan podcast about them retrieving crashed UFOs from different sites. And they're saying that the fiber optic technology, which looks a lot like the neurological system of the body, they're saying that they got that from the quote unquote ETs or what have you. Real interesting shit, nonetheless. Yeah. So I think we could jump into the conversation. It's been a minute, you know what I'm saying? I've been, just like you guys, I've been in the classroom studying, observing, making observations. I don't want to beat a dead horse, you know what I'm saying? But I do want to continue a conversation that we have been having. And I think the last time that I was here, maybe on live, I do remember we were having a conversation around accountability in hip hop, because this conversation was dovetailing off of what the brother D1 has started in the community, in the overarching overall online community, when he called out Rick Ross, Meek Mill, and Jim Jones. And his message to them was that you can do better, right? And the accountability that he was speaking of that during that particular time was dealing with lyric reform. You know what I'm saying? And if we really make an observation, if we're really honest with ourselves and we make a calculated observation about this year, this 50th year of hip hop, it has been one of accountability. The calls for accountability, and then you see where accountability is being ducked at. You know what I'm saying? The areas in our culture where you see people ducking accountabilities is the area in our culture that need the most help, and we need to shine the brightest of light. So hopefully, that light can upset the demons. The things that are hiding in the darkness that operate in stealth mode. You feel me? Those normally are the things that are sucking the life and the energy out of the people, out of the culture. So I think that it was a very this year itself, this 50th year, has been a call for accountability. Now, it didn't just start with D1, right? If we want to go back just a little bit further, that we can see the call for accountability initially was made by Special Ed, right? Special Ed called out NWA, right, as a call for accountability. He said that, he believes that NWA was the catalyst for gangster rap becoming, you know what I'm saying, such a prominent aspect of the culture, of hip-hop culture. His call for accountability, what's in my mouth? These are opals. I have an opal grill on the bottom. My apologies. Yes, I stand corrected by Big Empress Energy, right? The first call for accountability in the culture was C. Dolores Tucker. We have to give the elder and the ancestors her props. We have to circle the wagon on the people who jumped out at first that were not well received because we didn't quite understand, where they were coming from. You know what I mean? I kind of got where, C. Dolores Tucker sounded like my parents at the time. So it's not like what she was saying was foreign to me. I was hearing it from my parents, my father in particular. And I was ignoring him just like I was ignoring C. Dolores Tucker. And the thing with C. Dolores Tucker, I wasn't more so like this totally dismissive of what she was saying. I'm just like, the timing ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Timing is not right. It's not going to go over too well because these young men are just like sowing their oats. And unfortunately, this was the advent of, we really got to look and see what happened in hip hop, man. Shout out to the sister Ty Phoenix. I did a live with her. I want to say it was maybe late June because it was before August. It was before the 50th anniversary. It was either June or July. And we were going off of the astrological birth chart of hip hop. And if you are an astrologer, cosmologer, astrophysicist, you could pull it yourself and verify this information, right? The birth chart for hip hop would be August 11th, 1973, 9 p.m., Bronx, New York. Those are the metrics that you have to utilize to run that chart to come up to the conclusion that, we're showing. And that conclusion that we're showing is that even in hip-hop's birth chart, as a Leo, there were aspects in the birth chart that showed the suppression of women, right? Misogynistic energy was in the chart from the very beginning. But if you followed the chart, now shout out to Rod Cool, because me and him did a lecture in 2017 for hip-hop. This was when hip-hop would have been, let me see if I get my math correct. This is 2023, right? So 6 years. So it would have been 44, right? Whatever year hip-hop was 44 years old, I did a lecture on the hip-hop. And I think it was 2017 because this is the year that Jay-Z came out with 444, right? So it was 2017. And Rod Cool did hold me down and do a reading in the beginning of that lecture, of which I have on a hard drive. It was a webinar, so the masses did not see it, only the paid attendees. But I will share it because the brother did an amazing progressive chart. And what a progressive chart is that even if you was born in 73, what does your chart say about you today? Your chart has progressed. It moves a degree every year. So hip hop had already progressed. I think it might have progressed into Virgo or something like that, right? Long story short, the chart was saying that the female energy was about to take over hip hop, right? And I had made note to him. I said, that's one hell of a prediction because in 2017 is when Cardi B came on the scene. And she's an artist that comes from the Bronx, the birthplace of hip hop. So I said, man, this is about to signal a renaissance and a resurgence of, females' representation in hip hop. And I think that assessment and that observation was on point because that's what we've seen in this 50th year of hip hop. The dominating narrative is, the female voice in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Of which, like I said, there's a dichotomy, a very clear dichotomy that exists in the beginning, early stages of hip hop. And that dichotomy in hip hop can also, it reflects the social stratas and the social dichotomies in our society, right? Females' voice and their feminine expression it's not democratized across this country as much as it is on the East Coast, right? Meaning that women really did not have a say about their image. You know what I'm saying? They were objectified in a lot of other places when it came to their hip-hop expression. The Midwest, the South, in the West. You know what I'm saying? And ironically, these are places that come under the influence of pimpology, right? Pimps up, hoes down. You know what I'm saying? And it showed, on the East Coast, this was the only place where a progressive element of femininity through the music can be expressed, right? We had our Queen Latifahs, we had our MC Lights, you know what I'm saying? We had a lot of strong female voices that were being heard, right? They didn't have that on the West Coast. Minus Yo-Yo, right? Shout out to Yo-Yo. And who she is and what she represented and the dichotomy that represented at the time, how she cut through. It's not what you would have expected to see from the West Coast. You know what I'm saying? But there was a representation there that was solid. And I think that it was very much influenced by what was going on the East Coast as well. But nonetheless, these women stood up in hip-hop and had a voice for women in hip-hop. And the voice that they represented on the mic was a very different representation of what was taking place with women in the culture at the time. You know what I'm saying? The objectification, the misogyny, and things of that nature that I think, it's kind of like, if it wasn't obvious then, it's more so obvious now because you guys are hearing the stories. You know what I'm saying? There was a crass, trying to find the words. It's just the objectification factor of women in hip hop was unprecedented. You know what I'm saying? In the early 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s, And again, Special Ed was very on point with calling out NWA, right, as being the catalyst for what's considered gangster rap. Now, in KRS, and somebody just wrote KRS-One, and all right, speaks very well to hip hop in this story. Yeah, shout out to KRS-One. And Trina and Kia kneeled so Suki and Red could crawl. All right. I'm trying to... Man, listen. I want to be respectful through this discourse. I don't want to, start getting into my bag just to prove a point. Right? But at the same time, the backdrop or the background of the culture. Let's talk about, the videos, right? What was taking place on tour. You feel me? Like, these are the things, that were making the subtle impressions on our subconscious mind as we was watching the videos. There was no dark-skinned women in the videos. You know what I'm saying? The majority of video vixens early in the game, they were light-skinned women, lighter and brighter. They got lighter and brighter as you went. You know what I'm saying? When they were making veiled references to hoes and whores and sluts and groupies and jump-offs, then you started seeing women who may have, you might consider to be more ethnic, darker tones and skins or what have you, right? These kind of started becoming this prototypical, stereotypical personifications of what we were, because the question was always like, well then, who's the hoe? Who's the hoe in the culture? Because the hoe in the culture is getting dumped on. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so in NWA's defense, Ice Cube came up and said that it was more of a parody, right, than it was of them actually, promoting gangsterism or attempting to be real. He was saying that they was more CB4 in it if you guys seen the movie CB4, right? Ice Cube was saying, look, we was more CB4 than we was like really, really trying to be accepted on the gangster circuit as being actual gangsters, or, you know what I'm saying, playboys or players or whatever, right? He was saying it was more for a comedic effect. But it caught on, you know what I'm saying? In white America, they actually, they took it for the truth, right? It was the truth magoof to them. And what Ice Cube said initially was made for a local market and a control audience, you know what I'm saying? It became a global phenomenon. You know what I'm saying? It became a global phenomenon and it spread like wildfire. And they could no longer control the narrative because this is what the people started wanting. You know what I'm saying? What we have to understand in terms of micro macro, if we want to historically wrap our brains around what we saw took place, you know what I'm saying, in hip hop, and many of us participated in one way or another. If we want to get a better understanding of what took place in hip hop, then we can put it in the frame and reference of micro macro. So the micro macro was that this became a repeat, if you will, of the late 60s and early 70s, right? And hip hop picks up in the early 70s and replicates what it just experienced and went through. So let me explain. In the late 60s, in 1968 in particular, April 4th, Martin Luther King gets assassinated in Memphis. You know what I'm saying? They said that 63, I believe, about 63 different cities started rioting, right? Give or take. About, wherever melanated people was at, you know what I'm saying? We started erupting and we started rioting. And in order to suppress what they considered to be an uprising at that time, which had them terrified, right? They started rolling out and implementing all sorts of different policies, right? All sorts of different policies. You would consider it asymmetrical warfare because they attacked it from a lot of different places. Nixon attempted to attack it economically by creating what he called, black capitalists, right? They started pumping bread into different organizations. This what happened. This how they took down the Gangster Disciples and the GD, and all of them in Chicago, right? Because those brothers started formulating entities like nonprofits and things of that nature, and they started getting funding from the government, right? They had a whole office called the Office of Economic Opportunity that was run by Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney of all peoples. They looted that particular office for multiple millions of dollars before they did the auditing trick over at the Pentagon for $2 trillion that was discovered the day before the towers came down, right? You guys do know about that. The insurmountable amount of missing money that they found in their auditing when they was running that bureau. But they bankrupt the OEO. But before they bankrupt the OEO, they were funneling, you know what I'm saying, insurmountable amount of funds to melanated organizations in the inner city, for the most part, to buy them off, to make them compliant with whatever, the agenda was, so they could keep getting the money. And you gotta respect that. You know what I'm saying? It was a military tactic. And another military tactic that they employed was to crank up, the distribution of controlled substances in the communities. In this particular case, it would have been heroin, right? It would have been heroin, and then later on it became crack cocaine. And then we find out their connection, right? The government conspiracies and the connection to these particular controlled substances, how they connect to war, okay? How they connect to war. Case in point, the Doogie, right? When the dope became a thing in the U.S., it became by way of Lucky Luciano. Lucky Luciano was commissioned by the United States government to go to Italy and cut a deal with the North Italian mafia bosses, because in order for the U.S. as a military contingency to run down on their enemies, right? Because this is during the war, okay? They needed safe passage in those mountains. And in order to make that particular deal, they needed the cooperation of the mob bosses. And in order to make that happen, they needed to have one of their own speak to them. And in order to do that, they had to go and release Lucky Luciano to run a play for them. After he successfully does that, they turn their backs and they allow him to set up what's called the French Connection. Okay? And the French Connection allows him to bring in, with the Corsicans and the Turks, it allows him to bring in boatloads of heroin, right? High-grade heroin for cheap prices. And this is how they kick off, what's considered to be the dope wave. This is where your, Bumpy Johnson and all of them, this is where they cut their teeth and their legend is made. You feel me? So that was the U.S.'s that was their hand in dope. And then they show you in the movie Panther, right, that the police, okay, federal agencies as well as, we talking state, federal, and local, okay, and the mobsters got with the gangsters in the community, which would be the pimps and the hustlers. And they both, all of them, what they had in common is their disdain of the revolutionary, because the revolutionary was slowing up the money, right? The revolutionary was anti-pimping and the revolutionary was anti-hustler. So when the pimp and the hustlers got together with the police, right, and the mobsters and the gangsters, they said, look, we're going to empower you, right, to do asymmetrical guerrilla warfare on the ops. And we're going to turn our back. We're going to supply you with the doozy. We're going to supply you with the guns. And the police is going to turn their back while you clean up shop. Okay? And that's what they did. You feel me? And they pushed and they marginalized the revolutionaries out the game. And some of them brothers are still sitting in prison to this day, right? From the 70s. Unfortunately forgotten. You know what I'm saying? And peace, love, and light to them for their sacrifice. But that's how they neutralized the movement. You know what I'm saying? And then they implemented, it's a book called Black to the Roots. So at the same time that they were implementing and pushing out the revolutionary, right, and marginalizing them and creating public enemy number one out of them, you know what I'm saying? So they can ultimately push them into a corner and push them off the cliff. So now the hustler and the pimp can flourish in the community, right? Then comes Superfly. Now Superfly comes. Superfly gives them the template, right? Because you always, you could fix the plate up, you could fix the table up. You know what I'm saying? But somebody got to cut the turkey. So that's what Superfly did. Superfly gave them the instructions. You know what I mean? My father said that his generation, and they went into the movies with dashikis on and they came out with processors. You know what I'm saying? They came out with butterfly collars and processors. So Superfly inaugurates and initiates them into, fetishing that aspect of street life. They wanted to be pimps and hustlers. Now they saw the blueprint. They on their way. You know what I'm saying? It's the same way that Scarface did that to my generation. You feel me? Same thing. These brothers went into the movies. They had on black medallions. You know what I'm saying? They was cultural and shit. They came out of Scarface and niggas had on silk Versace's with the Rolexes and they was ready to move weight of the yay. So then the cocaine gets introduced, right? And you guys may know the stories or you may not. So Iran-Contra's running, right? So the U.S. is fighting Russia in a Cold War. And Russia's always attempting to get closer and closer to the U.S. for influence. It's taking place right now in Latin and Central America, right? Where they have leftist regimes in the Americas, and now they have conservative regimes in America. Argentina just elected somebody that's like a Trump 2.0. You feel me? Whereas there's other regimes in the Americas that have more left-leaning presidents that might still be in bed with Russia, right? So they was funding the Iran-Contra, to make a long story short, right? They were funneling cocaine by the tons out of Central and South America. They were bringing it to the U.S. They were selling it for cheap. They was buying guns, and they was bringing guns back to these particular operations so they could commence and do their warfare, right? Their clandestine warfare. So these are black op missions. This is not things that are funded by the Congress, and there's no congressional record of the funding. It's all under the table, right? So why does U.S. participate in the selling of drugs? The U.S. participates in the selling of drugs so it can fund black operations, black ops, things that it cannot get surface funding for. Even the UFO program is considered black ops, but this is a multi-trillion-dollar program. So what type of drugs are being sold to fund such a, you know what I'm saying, such a deep state, deeper than deep state program? That's a whole nother narrative, right? So they get in with the crack cocaine now. So they got the community damn near neutralized. They brought in the doozy, right, which is the dope. Now they got the coke in there, and then comes crack, right? So, you know, at the same time, you feel me? At the same time that the war is taking place on these social levels, they also launched warfare inside of the music industry, because what the CIA noticed is that they said Bob Marley's music was having an effect internationally, inspiring revolutions, right? And independent movements around the world. So the last thing that they wanted to happen was for Bob Marley to catch on as a national star, because Bob Marley had not necessarily cracked the U.S. market yet, y'all. Bob Marley was big overseas, right? Reggae was not necessarily something that took hold of the U.S. yet. Bob Marley was slated to go on tour with Stevie Wonder. The CIA knew that if those two got together, they weren't even more so scared about Bob Marley getting, because Stevie Wonder would have validated Bob Marley, and Bob Marley would have became a staple in the U.S. The CIA said that they were more concerned with Stevie Wonder becoming radicalized by Bob Marley, right? So the CIA started activating their operatives. Bob Marley's manager, Chris Blackwell, was a Harvard graduate who was a CIA asset, right? And then the CIA went and they formulated a report on how to neutralize black music. They went and got another CIA operative, Harvard graduate named Clive Davis, at the time, who was working at CBS Records, to implement phase one of what they considered to be infiltration of black music, to take the soul out of it, because they said that the music started becoming too revolutionary. There's a book on this called Black to the Roots, right? I highly recommend that you read this book. You know what I'm saying? It'll all of this stuff that they be talking about, oh, the secret letter in the industry, that shit is cute. That shit is cute, but there's no evidence of it. You know what I'm saying? These are CIA white papers that they put together in order for them to neutralize music. So they brought in Clive. Clive Davis was his first op that he was supposed to run down on, was the Philly sound, right? Gamble and Huff. They told him exactly how to do it. Yo, let these people do their first album. And then on the second album, they said bring in synthesized sounds. Take the production out of it, right? No more live instruments. So Black to the Roots is the name of the book. Black to the Roots. Okay? It's by brother Ross. I forget the brother's full name, but he's a Ross. All right, shout out to the brother. Yeah. Bob did the Buffalo Soldier. That's why don't fuck with him. What's our homie's name? He refused to go and meet him after that. Dick Gregory, right? Shout out to the elder. So they go to Clive Davis. Clive Davis is a CIA asset, Harvard graduate. Another CIA asset, Harvard graduate at the time was the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Siega. You feel me? Siega was a CIA asset, Harvard graduate, who was being utilized by the CIA at this time to run cocaine and guns through Jamaica as the stop on the way to America. Siega does what? Siega militarizes, right? He radicalizes and militarizes youth on the country, and creates them into ultimately what becomes the Shower Posse. Now, these were young Jamaican youth, more so that went to Catholic school. So there's the tie between Catholicism, CIA, and Harvard, right? Or at least the handlers being these people that come from Harvard backgrounds that are CIA assets that deal with some level of Catholicism. But Catholicism is how they indoctrinated these youth, how they, programmed them, and then they become the Shower Posse, right? So it is explained to me that the Shower Posse introduced crack cocaine. They had crack in the Bronx before Freeway Ricky had crack in LA, right? Because they was at it for quite some time on the island of Jamaica causing ruckus with Siega, right? So if y'all don't know, like how they got in this country where there's the red state and the blue state, and like let's say the MAGA is Trump's hitman, you know what I'm saying? Like he got them and they act a fool. That's how it is in Jamaica between the political parties. You know what I'm saying? They almost like gangs. Gang. So they neutralized Bob Marley, right? This is my thing, right? This is why my stance is the way that my stance is, because I did the research. You feel me? And I refuse to believe that they went through all of that trouble neutralizing an art form that they considered to be threatening to them. They weaponized their answer, right? They weaponized their answer to black music, right? By creating the plan and the plot that they created. And Clive Davis was successful because he ended up infiltrating the Philadelphia sound and he decimated it. And he didn't stop there. He kept going and he kept going until he neutralized damn near all of them. Then later on, here comes hip hop. Now, they were destroying and decimating reggae all the way up into the early 80s. And then they brought in, remember, when they take down Bob Marley, right? And they already split up the Wailers, right? In comes Yellow Man. And Yellow Man brings in Slack. Slack music later on devolves into what's considered to be dancehall. But it was Slack first, right? So it was Slack. It was devoid of any semblance of roots and culture. It was Slack. And people loved that. People liked it that. Same way that when gangster music came, gangster music was Slack. It was devoid of any culture. It was devoid of anything that's considered to be consciousness, quote unquote, so to speak, even though I don't agree, because Fuck the Police was, to me, it was an aggressive conscious song. Express Yourself from NWA was conscious music. And there was others, I think, that NWA was responsible for that to me wasn't the most crass. So I somewhat agree with them when they said that there was a comedic aspect to it, right? NWA brought parody. They wasn't necessarily trying to promote and package themselves as the world's biggest gangster group. That's not initially what they were doing. They was like, yo, we drink 8-ball and we goof off over here. And just like over there where, you know, Slick Rick is saying treat him like a prostitute. You feel me? We over here rat packing them and doing what we do. So the culture is communicating about their shared disregard and disrespect for women. And the West is telling the East, y'all niggas is too soft out there because the East Coast is the only place where women have a voice of their own and they can express themselves as being equal participants in culture and society. Everywhere else is pimps up, hoes down. Everywhere else in Black America. Everywhere else. Now, I'm going to give you a second. If you think different, feel free to comment and we can talk about it. We could talk about it, right? And it ain't, you know, even though I got motherfucking, you know, my hair's not all black anymore. It's telling my age. I've been around for a second. I've seen some things, right? So when Snoop Dogg came out, I was in high school. I was in a relationship in high school. I was in one of those relationships in high school where, you know, you hold your girlfriend's hand and shit. You know what I'm saying? We take big pride out of courting. You feel me? The first kiss is a thing. You know? And if you get to home base and shit, you know, that's a whole nother situation. Like, and these things was not, we didn't use it as badges of honor. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't shame the young lady that was in a relationship with us because the relationship progressed to a place where it got serious. This is where people was actually like making their early families at. You know what I'm saying? And we wasn't necessarily in the ideology or the mind frame of running through young women. It just was not like that. There was the 2 or 3 women that let you run through them. They was considered to be hoes and sluts. And they had a marginalized place in society. Everybody knew who they was. You went to them when you needed them. And the women detested them. It just was, and everybody else you was attempting to court to some degree into a relationship. That's how I remember it. You know what I'm saying? And I was in the mix of things. So the music, right? That's what I'm saying. I find it very hard to believe that the CIA will go from researching music, black music in particular, implementing a plan where they could destroy it, going through exactly what they went through to get at Bob Marley the way that they got at him, right? And destroy his thing, for them to just go to sleep and not be studying and investigating hip hop for what it is, especially if it is a youth culture movement coming out of the streets of New York. That shit had to be under the microscope from day one, right? Because this represents what's considered to be an inherent threat because it's giving these people a voice and is creating an atmosphere where the rise of a black messiah can happen and they can't contain it because they just experienced what it will look like via music with Bob Marley and the threat of Stevie Wonder becoming radicalized. You don't think of it like that. Again, like I said, we need to read the book so we can put ourselves in the perspective of what was going on at that time and how they was losing control. And the fact that they pulled these stops out, you know what I'm saying, to neutralize what they considered to be an uprising. John Lennon, yeah, when they got rid of him. When they got rid of a lot of them during that time. You feel me? So we find ourselves, you know, again, during those times, it was a lot of different things that was informing us to make informed consents in regards to how we are going to condition our minds to interact with the opposite sex, right? What was orientating our psychology during this time to deal with the women or the young girls? Nigga, we was listening to Guy and Jodeci. Look, outside of you operating with the activity that Aaron Hall identifies on an interview saying, yeah, I was grabbing her hand and just taking her upstairs and giving her the business. Like, that energy came after Snoop, when dudes started devaluing the interaction in the work that was initially done that we was prideful for, right? The work that initially was done in order to court a female and get her permission and her compliance to allow you to do things and experiment, right? It was different. Guy, Jodeci, somebody said Michael Jackson. Yeah, but Mike was giving you the tunes but he wasn't giving you, like, not all the way the game. You know what I'm saying? We was coming home on Video Music Box and we was looking at Guy. And we was looking at Keith Sweat. Right? My bad. Let me, you know what I'm saying? Keith got to get his, Keith, you know what I mean? But Keith was an enigma, because we didn't know too much about Keith other than, you know, he was carooning, he was a carooner, and he was carooning when it was time to caroon. Right? We ain't know, all right. New Edition. I don't, whoa, worrying about my image. So, New Edition, and it becomes Bobby Brown, right? Because he gives you the first taste of quote unquote bad boy, right? Bobby Brown was the first bad boy. New Edition, Bobby Brown, who becomes the Dark Hermit of New Edition, because the way that they package a New Edition to us, they like the Jackson 5. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have no inflammatory lyrics. All of their shit was kid-friendly. Right? Bobby Brown comes, it's a little bit more aggressive. This is before BDP. Right? Because BDP comes as a response to Guy. Guy comes with Teddy Riley. Teddy Riley comes with the New Jack Swing. It becomes a whole new sound and a whole new movement in music, because Teddy Riley's influencing Bobby Brown's sound specifically by giving him the New Jack Swing swag. BBD has to, later on in life, they have to acquiesce to this new vibration in music, and they become what they become with BBD. Now everyone's talking a little bit spicier to these young women, right? Guy comes, Aaron Hall influences R. Kelly. Okay? Because Barry Henderson, who becomes the manager initially of Teddy Riley, okay, then he goes to manage R. Kelly. You guys know Barry, he is the uncle of Aaliyah. Right? Color Me Bad was cute. I wasn't following nothing that No White Boys was in. Right? And they had a song or two, but they were not setting the standard. We're talking about people that we modeled ourselves off of. Right? In terms of, yo, we got our cloth from them. We got our cloth talk from them. And a lot of people got their fashion tips from them. That's the shit that you turned on when you was with your shorty. That's the shit that you was listening to get cues for how to deal with shorties. That wasn't Color Me Bad. That was Guy, Jodeci, Keith Sweat, I'll Be Sure to some degree, Yes. Puffy went to Catholic school and so did Biggie Smalls. You can't separate them. You can't say Guy Jodeci and Teddy Riley. Teddy Riley is Guy, right? Teddy Riley is Guy. I'll Be Sure had a wave. So for the niggas who wanted to act light-skinned, y'all talking about older groups, Soul For Real, all of these people came after the fact on Uptown, nonetheless. So this is the house that Andre Harrell built initially with Guy and Jodeci and Mary J. Blige. You feel me? R. Kelly comes after that. Soul For Real comes after that. Color Me Bad comes after that. Mint Condition comes after that. All of that shit comes after this. 112 damn sure came after that because that was on Puffy's label later on with Bad Boy. Let's keep a timeline consistent, y'all. Let's keep a timeline consistent, right? Uptown Records, Andre Harrell and his partner, I forget his partner's name, but his partner's very interesting. I watched a whole documentary on these guys the other day. You know what I'm saying? And it was necessary because we lived through this stuff and didn't even know we didn't know all of the players. You know what I'm saying? But it's important that we get the timelines together. And this is before Clive. Yes, this is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Right? This is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde days. Founders of Uptown Records. And yeah, this brother, he did a podcast interview, and he gave the whole skinny, right? About how they formed, what they was on as children. You know what I'm saying? They whole shit. Damn, they only got Andre Harrell listed as the founder. But yeah, it was another brother there that was with him. Said that they've been together since they was like 8 or 9. So remember, Uptown Record, they bring in Heavy D first. Heavy D cracks the whole gate open. Shout out to Heavy D. Now, if the brother Red is on this live, he will tell you how much we were impacted and influenced as children watching Heavy D before Christopher Williams, right? All of these people show up as integral parts and pieces of the narrative. But I'm walking you literally step by step through the indoctrination process and period of people who we got game from. We got game from Heavy D as well. He was the overweight lover. He was giving you cues and tips on how to deal with women. Courting them, though. Not running through them. Right? He was the overweight lover. Not the overweight freak. You feel me? He was the overweight lover. So his shit was about grooming women and having a cachet. You feel me? But you still attaining to your stable. It's not like he was running through them. Even though I heard he was running through them. Right? Wine and dine, yes. You know? He was speaking like that. Heavy D had respectable lyrics. He didn't have disrespectful lyrics. And he was an overweight brother who could dance and knew how to dress. He had swag. And me and Red, the reason that we were so much into his music, our fake aunt, a lady named Capri, was the feature in the video for Overweight Lover. This was my father's family friend, but we had a secret crush on her. You know what I'm saying? She had the memory. You know what I'm saying? So I was a fan of his, but I was tight with him too, because I'm like, yo, you pushing up on my, because everybody had a fake girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? When you growing up, you had an older woman that you looked up to, and that was your fake wife. That was your fake shorty. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, yo, how you pushing up on my fake shorty? So I was tight with him, but he had my attention. Cause I'm like, what he got going on that I don't? So I was really studying this nigga because he had my shorty in the lead video, and this shit is being beamed around the planet. So I'm like, I'm tight, but I'm a fan too. Because now I feel like I'm part of the family. Cause I'm like, I know her. You know what I'm saying? But I really liked the music. And he used to wear the Coca-Cola shirts and all of that. He was fashionable. He was in league with the shit that I was seeing outside, you know what I mean, when it came to fashion. You know what I mean? Heavy D was that guy. Heavy D and the boys, even his partners, they was fly. You know what I'm saying? So that's where Uptown came from. I remember Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as a group. I wasn't into that. I wasn't into their raps. I thought it was, you know what I mean? Because Dr. Sabi used to call me and Phil Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So I thought that was something. But I wasn't really into their music. And then Father MC and them came along. Father MC was showing you as well. Yo, this is how. So all of these brothers had style. All of these brothers was about females. But their approach towards the women was not. It wasn't disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? They was laying down game. You feel me? They was laying down game. Father MC was laying down game. He was talking slick to them, but not slick like a pimp. You know what I'm saying? Slick like a uptown nigga. Yes. And then Puff comes and he clones Father MC. He clones, as now we can see, it was a conglomeration of him cloning Father MC and Aaron Hall. Right? Father MC was that guy. Father MC was that guy at the time that he was that guy. So Father MC introduces Jodeci, and Father MC introduces Mary J. Blige to the world. Father MC don't get mentioned for the contributions that he made. But if you grew up at the time that we grew up, when I'm telling this story, if you grew up during this story, you know Father MC was that guy. Okay, I'll go with that. Father MC was Big Daddy Kane 2.0. Right? Because you would know also when we grew up, Big Daddy Kane was that guy. Right? And this was as risky as you would get. Big Daddy Kane was a risky artist in terms of how he appealed to women, because he would, step over that invisible line just a little bit. But that was enough for him to be considered to be like, oh, you know what I'm saying? My guy, he crosses that line. He got a little bit of pimp in him. Feel me? He got a little bit of pimp in him. He probably ultimately did. Madonna seen that shit. She pulled it up out of him. Pause. So I'm giving you the game like these are the men who initially indoctrinated a generation into how we related to the opposite sex, right? Our relations and what have you. Even though a lot of them may have come from backgrounds where they might have been exposed to hustlers, pimps, and what have you, all of it wasn't necessarily leaking into the music. Now, going back and listening to the lyrics from Guy, you can hear there was lyrics that Aaron Hall was singing where he was emitting, almost he had us singing along to lyrics that suggested, what's the acronym they're using? SA, right? Because we don't want to get these videos flagged, and you got to put 1 and 2 together. Sexual assault, right? Rape. Ape with the R in front of things like that. Shit like that was going on, right? And we weren't mindful of it. Because we're innocent. We're listening, and we're listening to lyrics, not necessarily reading them, and we're being programmed and indoctrinated, and we're going along with it, and we're blind to the fact. Right? And I did not leave I didn't leave Slick Rick out of it. I mentioned him earlier. You know, when he came with Treat Him Like a Prostitute. To me, this was paradigm shifting in my world because I was not exposed to that. I was not exposed to anybody. There was no general conversation taking place in my orbit where somebody was saying treat him like a prostitute. You feel me? And in order for us to listen to that music, we would have to sneak and listen to it. You know what I'm saying? We would go over A.A. Rashid's crib. Shout out to Alfisa. But that's where we used to hang out the window or be in the back room listening to this music. You know what I'm saying? So this is the first place that I ever heard that, those particular sentiments being expressed. Other than that, in the world that I grew up into prior to that, you know what I'm saying? Men were attempting as best as they could to court women and to shower them with a level of respect, right? I wasn't exposed to that. Like, yo, dudes is trying to run through to create a body count type of situation. You know what I mean? It was still like if you wanted to get with this young woman, you was gonna be with her. You know what I'm saying? Like, you was trying to really lock her down. You know what I'm saying? So, boom. Because, this stuff happens quick. Guy, Jodeci, Puffy manages to finagle his way in on the heels of Jodeci, then it's a wrap. Right? I mean, if we think about it now, right, then it kind of like becomes a wrap because R. Kelly clones Aaron Hall. Guy and New Edition have an incident on the road where their security details get into it and one of their dudes get killed. Teddy Riley backs away from the group, right? So there's no more Guy. Right? Aaron Hall can't survive on his own. Here comes R. Kelly with the machine behind him. Right? And then R. Kelly had it in his grip and it never changed from there. You know what I'm saying? And then we started noticing strange shit from the gate, from the door, because not too long after that, he comes with Aaliyah. And the age ain't nothing but a number thing. So you like, damn, like, things are starting to change. The energy's starting to change. How they're talking to women is starting to change. How they're courting women is starting to change. And then you get the idea that, yo, this shit is not about long-term relationships no more. They're talking about jump-offs. They're talking about freak-offs. They're talking about running through them. They're talking about body counts. They're talking about stacking the deck. You know what I'm saying? We're hearing about the backstage epilogues and things of that nature. We ain't know about that. We started hearing all these stories and stuff, and things start becoming more salacious. But then this is the time where this is during the rise of the crackhead, right? So young men are being acclimated towards sexuality totally different during this time, right? You're getting fellatio from ex-teachers, ex-babysitters, grown women. These is 14 and 15-year-old young men who are now gaining access to sexual exploits in ways in which their wildest dreams, so they can live out, the comedy records that they heard from Richard Pryor and Dolomite. But more importantly, you can reenact these scenes that you see on that VHS with Vanessa Del Rio and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, this interesting. The music starts matching the street experience, right? This you know, they say art imitates life and life imitates art, and it's a very thin line, and they start meshing and melding. And this is where the meshing and the melding started taking place. The music was already supporting women who didn't have a level of discretion or respect for themselves. And we're not going to get into this conversation, y'all. I'm not being dismissive or demeaning of women when I say that, you know, women at this time who are engaging in a level of promiscuity, you know what I'm saying, were being treated a particular way where they knew what it was hitting for, meaning that you knew homie was talking about you. You know that your name was written in the bathroom. You knew that you was being labeled a hoe because there was there was a search party being done for hoes at that time because everybody wanted to know, who's a hoe? Who's these people that Snoop and them is talking about like this? Right? Oh no, the dating scene changed overnight. So what I can attest is that, like I said, I was one of those young men that, you know, I held my lady's hand and shit. We ain't wear the same uniform or the outfits, even though that was cute. And people was doing that, especially with the Coca-Cola outfits and the Oshkosh and things of that nature. They was wearing the same fits. If you had to spray paint like a motherfucking Shirt King, I bought my lady the nameplate. She had her earrings and shit like that. I was that type of boyfriend, but I wasn't gonna wear the same outfit. You know what I'm saying? Me and my lady wear the same outfit now, but that's who I was back then. So I literally witnessed, you know, the unholding. Yeah, I was cuffing. the unholding of hands, right? Even to the degree where you like, dudes was like, yeah, I'm walking on this side of the street with my guys and shit. We mob deep. You gotta walk across the street. Yo, matter of fact, yeah, don't even holler at me when we in school. I see you after school. Matter of fact, just pull up at the crib after school. We don't even gotta get on the same bus or on the same train and go home no more. It was like that. And it happened overnight. And when I mean overnight, y'all, I literally mean like overnight, like one day, like change shit. Yeah, there was no, you ain't taking her to the dance no more. None of that prom shit. All that shit went out the window. Cause niggas became tough. They became gangsters and they were influenced, right, by the Sonics that were coming from the West Coast. So again, for Ice Cube to not want to take accountability, right, as the living member of NWA and one of the people responsible for penning the lyrics of the majority of the group, for him not to take responsibility and just say, yo, we had a comedic effect to it. It was a parody, but it was a parody that caught on, right, and spread like wildfire, and it created a mentality, right, where we became debased towards one another because now a culture that dealt with melanated men dealing with one another aggressively and dealing with women as a commodity, that shit got packaged as a product and it got sold to young men with impressionable mentalities that, like I said, just came out of this whole wave where their parents got the revolution smacked up out of them and replaced with Superfly and Scarface. So the young brothers and sisters at that time, we children of that. And we're highly impressionable because we're looking for signals, right? We're looking for cultural cues, and we're trying to find our way in life. Yo, Red, you know who the author of Black Roots is? The brother Ross, I forget his last name. Right? We're going to get that information for you. Shout out to Ross Ben. Ross Ben is the publisher. His company is the publisher of that particular book. But I'm going to find a name for you. Right? So, the lack of accountability, right? And the fact that we can tell this narrative and it go all the way back. It goes all the way back so far. What's the brother's name? R.A. Patterson Shabazz. Hold on, look. Black to the Roots, Reggae's Rise, Downpression, and Reascension. That's the name of the author. Okay? Black to the Roots. All right. An amazing read. Highly recommend it. You know? Again, we've been talking about creating a book club, a KTL book club. It will be created, you know? So, damn, this is such a far-reaching story, and I don't want to lose any pace moving forward, tying this thing together when it comes to accountability, and I also don't want to be a prude by attempting to place everything on the shoulders of Mr. Sean Puffy Combs, because he represents a mentality, an ideology, and, you know, he's not alone. Like, what I think, again, where he represents as a mentality, is systematic. The way that he went about doing it, right? Because he creates systems, and because his run was unprecedented. He has a 30-year run. 30-year. Yeah, he would be the low-hanging fruit, but you know what I'm saying? He's like a GMO fruit. Like, if you go into the grocery and shit, like, let's even say lemons, the organic ones is like that, but the GMO ones is like that. So you can't ignore them because they're so visible, right? And to say that he is replaceable, again, we're not giving the credence to the control that this one individual has had on the mentalities, right, of not only melanated men, but the world. When I say that we, you know, it was all a dream, and we still are living within the dream of Biggie Smalls, we are living within the parameters of what that dream was, and the dream within itself was illusionary. It is hip-hop's representation of the American dream. It's the American dream 2.0, because, in the words of Lyle Cohen, it's purely aspirational, right? It's fantasy. Yes, we have not yet got there yet, but it was aspirational. You feel me? So he created something. There was a dreamscape. It was aspirational, but it was fictional. But there's been aspects of it that have been realized that are very much real. People have moved into the mansions. People have gotten their Rolls Royces and their Bentleys. You know what I'm saying? People have become billionaires, right? But if that's all that we aspire to, you feel me? If that's the pinnacle of our aspirations, then how far can it ever really, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to go beyond that. Yes. So you can't say he's replaceable when what he has presented is a mentality. Like he puts the C in culture. He put the C in culture. So even if you replace him, what do you do to all of these people who were programmed by that particular paradigm that only know how to operate within the confines of that paradigm? Right? And then, yes, and then the implications of, we're speaking about one man, right? We're speaking about one man who, again, as I'm speaking about the killing or them destroying the revolution to replace it with party and bullshit, you're speaking about someone who literally in one person personifies, right, that aggression. Because not only does Biggie Smalls introduce the song Party and Bullshit to usher in, because Party and Bullshit is a verse in the song that was made by the Last Poets, right, dealing with the revolution not being televised to some degree, right? It was their anthem about where this thing might be headed if we don't get control of it. Biggie Smalls turns it into a celebratory song about where we are at in the game, where we just on party and bullshit. And that theme comes along at a time where consciousness was still trying to, it was drowning and shit in hip hop, trying to get air, attempting to resuscitate itself, looking to see if it can survive the coming onslaught of what will ultimately become crack rap, right? And reality rap. But reality rap to the degree where it's not the message like Melly Mel, where you're a reporter, a street reporter, holding up the camera and reporting what you're seeing. It's the shit that's going on now that Israel is saying with the AP, where they like, damn, you sending your reporters into the war zone and they doing kidnappings with the goddamn quote unquote terrorists. So the music now becomes, you know, niggas is telling you how to cook work on the track. Niggas is telling you how to flip work on the track. Right? Big is giving you the crack commandments. It's no longer becoming something that is neutral. Now you're becoming an advocate for the whole underground industry of hustling and selling crack. Right? So, and the aspiration is a false one, because the aspiration is what? That these young black men will engage in a criminal lifestyle in America on camera and be successful enough to achieve $1 billion, because the message never got upgraded and updated, right? These young men who became middle-aged men successful in their endeavors of storytelling, right, and selling the rest of the world our misery, they never updated their game plan or their business plan to say, look, young man, right, like, let's say in the personas of a Rick Ross, I got this motherfucking mansion that Evan the Holyfield used to live in because I made some incredible business moves. You know what I'm saying? Because not only was I the nigga making rhymes about selling crack, but I understood business. You feel me? I understood business. You know what I'm saying? I knew how to parlay this investment into multiple franchises, right? Those conversations never got had. So are these young men that are listening to this programming being led to believe that, like Jay-Z, you can tell the whole world that you are selling multiple millions of dollars of crack cocaine, take pictures with the mayor, take pictures with the president, you know, marry the prettiest girl in the game and still make it out of the game to become a billionaire? They're not telling them the rest of the equation in order to be successful. So they're selling them on a false premise of an American dream that don't exist. That don't exist. Right. Straight to jail. And then they're not coming on wax after the fact. Now they're telling you, oh, we probably made the niggas who cut out checks to make this music even more richer, because them same people own the stocks in these private prisons that now we know we have been given soundtracks to the music that has been filling up these beds. So now they're coming into the realization, and it's not making them denounce the lyrics. It's not making them no longer make the lyrics. What are they doing? They're going to court to make sure that you can't use the lyrics to get prosecuted against you. And they still making the same music. So they're making a mockery of prison reform. They're making a mockery of the prisoners. They're making a mockery of everything. They're making a mockery of everything. You feel me? At the same time, packaging and presenting to themselves, to the world, as if, you know, they are the Renaissance man of our era. And they represent black excellence. You feel me? But the false premise is what? Oh, you're going to be able to attain any level of wealth by engaging in criminal activity in America on camera and on wax. Because to them, it's not just about, yo, this is the shit that we do in the dirt. It's like, nah, we have, you know, federally monitored motherfucking clubs like Club Live, where you niggas could come and see all of the top hustlers in the world. Yeah, we're going to run this BMF 3.0 program over and over and over and over again, going to every city and luring out the underworld elements of it so they could be on Broad Street and displayed. And then you wonder why everybody getting hit with RICOs. Everybody's trying to catch up with BMF. What you think? So it's these false premises. Like, yo, I could lose 96 bricks and make them all back, but still be responsible for electing the hip hop president. That's one hell of an onus when you selling a dream where you like, yo, you can achieve anything in this life. And I still believe, yes, you can achieve anything in this life. You feel me? But to be selling that to children is a dead end proposition. You feel me? It's a dead end proposition. And these men who we would expect to have more accountability and just be a tad bit more responsible have let us down. And it's okay and it's not okay, right? It's okay because at the end of the day, yes, you're responsible for you. Like them niggas be telling you, your parents is responsible for how they raised you. You're responsible for the decisions that you make, right? And you also have to learn from the decisions that you made and become a better parent to teach that shit to your children. This is called life at the end of the day. You can't allow nobody to take that shit from you. A nigga cannot finesse you out of that, right? They have just given bad direction and bad guidance, right? Granted. And there's a multitude of things that can go into that. And we need to be smacked on the head because we was following niggas who was blind all the time, being raised on the motherfucking passage that said that this is what is going to happen. Y'all going to be following the blind over the motherfucking cliff. And we did. Right? But how do we, you know, what now? What now? Right? What now with this campaign of accountability going on? So look, NWA want to take accountability, right? Ice Cube didn't want to take accountability. Rick Ross didn't want to take accountability. Meek Mill didn't want to take accountability. Jim Jones don't want to take accountability. Look, even with the serial killer shit, Boosie ain't want to take accountability. The family of King Von don't want to take accountability. Right? The little nigga with the black polish on. He's saying, I'm going to take accountability. What's the nigga name? NBA Youngboy. He the only one who want to say, I'm going to take some accountability. Sukahana don't want to take accountability. Sexy Red says she don't want to take accountability. Young Thug don't want to take accountability. He's fighting the charges. Right? Nobody wants to take accountability. Right? And look how this shit dovetails into what it dovetails into. You feel me? How far it goes back. Are you looking at, look, the progenitors of the art form don't want to take responsibility. Right? So this shit is fucked. And we in a 50-year anniversary understanding that we all been got. Because how you start something is not necessarily how you finish it, but the fingerprints are still on the foundation. So you got to rip the floorboard up and start all over again if you want something different from this shit. Because Russell Simmons don't want to take accountability, and neither does Afrika Bambaataa. And if you want to know how that shit plays itself out in the illest way, is look at the trauma that is still caused today with Hassan Campbell crashing out as a result of all of this and ending up getting shot on camera because of the lack of responsibility and accountability that the progenitors and the elders of hip hop have been willing to take. That is what it looks like as a sickness, as an illness. So whatever Hassan Campbell is going through, energetically wise, there's a small aspect, a semblance of it that I think that we all are going through, right? Because, again, these are the fathers. These are the people who started this shit, right? How many women are coming after Russell Simmons? How many women? Well, we can't even say women in this case, right? How many young boys are coming after Afrika Bambaataa? So you're talking about insurmountable amounts of people whose voices are not being heard. Their voices are being suppressed. And we're continuously telling people in our society, yeah, this person is above the law. One person is too big to fail. Right? We've been telling that to one another for a while. Like, yeah, your cries really don't matter because you're not popping like this person over here. And because of hip hop, we're dealing with dominant hierarchy, in the words of our brother A.A. Rashid. You know what I'm saying? So we're dealing with a dominant hierarchy, you know, in the nigga kingdom. And whoever got the most money in the nigga kingdom, everybody's on their Shivalingam. Whoever got the most money in the nigga kingdom, everybody else is on their Shivalingam. You know what I'm saying? So these men have been presented to be too big to fail, right? And for what they represent to the community is unwilling, you know what I mean, to hold them accountable or to take them to the cleaners or to make some sort of, you know, sacrifice out of these people in public where we like, yo, yeah, we go for a lot of shit, but this shit we ain't fucking with. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, understanding that for these people who we're speaking about, who have become cultural predators in the community, they themselves very well may be victims. Right? So how far does this shit go back? Right? Who did to Puffy what he seems to be, you know, replicating and duplicating on other people? Because hurt people hurt people. And when you look at the level of depravity that goes into the sadistic things that are being said about said individuals, you gotta be like, yo, who did something to them to this degree where they're expressing this the way that they are, right? And then like Clive Davis, granted, right? Clive Davis has to have a level of accountability. But you know, the bodies will never make their way all the way up to Clive Davis. I don't think so. Right? They're gonna protect the ones at the top like that. So, you know, does it go further than that for him? You know, he's a child of Catholic school. He's, you know what I'm saying? He's a graduate of Catholic school. So could it be the priest? Can it go further back than that? And let me explain something that we need to take into account as well. And this is from the account of the documentarians dealing with Uptown Records. Uptown Records said they could not control Puffy, right? He was out of control once he cut his teeth with Jodeci. He was uncontrollable. You know what I'm saying? So by us saying, he may have been introduced and initiated into X, Y, and Z by Andre Harrell, one, that's purely speculative. And two, it doesn't make sense because there was no level of loyalty there. That's not who broke him, quote unquote, if you will. You feel me? Because he had no allegiance to that penis. So, you know what I'm saying? It was Andre Harrell, but like they said that he was uncontrollable and they couldn't do anything with him. And he was so uncontrollable, he came to devour them at Uptown Records. They had to let him go in order to save the company. You feel me? So, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who groomed that young man. But Mama Puff made a monster. And shout out to his mother, Janice. Right? She used to be on me for that Seven Heaven Seymour, something serious. She was a ardent customer when she lived on, well, she didn't live, she had a store on Flatbush. And right off of 7th Avenue, she used to sell cakes or pies or some shit. You know what I'm saying? She was hella cool. You know? In terms of, being a customer, she was very supportive. You know? So, yeah, Clive Davis, he came out in his book as being bisexual. He also expressed that in the movie that recently came out with Whitney Houston. So, he's telling as many people that are willing to listen that he goes both ways. He swings. They say where there's smoke, there's fire. You feel me? But yeah, whoever did these things to these young men, you know what I mean? Like, So, yeah, what I was saying about the dichotomy of what we're looking at when it comes to the accusations against Puff. Party and bullshit is an energy that came and kind of shut down any consciousness in hip hop because it was a theme that said that we on party and bullshit now. We're not on a revolution. You know what I'm saying? We're not on RBG. We ain't on revolutionary but gangster. We on party and bullshit mode. So they bring that energy in. If they're saying that Puffy went as far, and then Puffy was the one that initiated the Smackdown, and I believe it was 95 Summer Jam, 95 or 96, right? It might have been 95. I was there. And this when Wu-Tang tried to diss Puff on stage. They tried to say some slick shit about, you know, on some Suge Knight shit, niggas dancing on stage and all of that. Puff came out there on his set and shut that shit down. And he told Hot 97, you either fucking with me or you fucking with them. And after that, Wu-Tang was finished in New York. I don't care what nobody say. Care what nobody say. He finished them in New York radio. And when you get finished on New York radio, nigga, you are finished. So he effectively finished them niggas. Right? And that's why I figured out that I was like, oh, people really, really fuck with ODB. You know what I'm saying? They really fuck with ODB. Wu-Tang was cool, but the people's mentality started becoming a lot less conscious. You feel me? And they liked what ODB represented because you didn't have to think too hard. You didn't have to know the jargon. How you see ODB's energy, that was the community at the time. Like, that's how people started becoming very relaxed and laissez-faire, just wanted to party and bullshit. And you could party and bullshit to ODB. You can't party and bullshit to GZA. So he's responsible for killing consciousness on New York radio. And then if he in fact is responsible, had a hand in removing Tupac off of the planet, he literally killed the revolution. He literally killed the revolution. Or at least had a hand in it some way vicariously. So this one man, right? This one man becomes the personification of the changing of an era, the initiation and introduction of a new epoch, a new era that becomes the shiny shoe era. And we live within the dream of the shiny shoe theory to this day. To this day. Right? This is where we're at. And this is amazing, you know what I'm saying, that we should have this observation of this one individual who had such an impact on the culture and the genre and ultimately the planet. Because this is bigger than hip hop at this point. You know what I'm saying? This is bigger than hip hop at this point. This goes beyond just hip hop. At this point, when you are effectuating so many different things on this planet with your celebrity, and that individual had the ability to do so, you know what I'm saying? And then came back in the game and made $1 billion off of alcoholic beverages. You know, the 2 billionaires in the game are responsible for, you know, furthering the inebriation in order for them to cash out. And I'm like, you know, I mean, Jay-Z came in as he was hustling. So you changing, you know, one narcotic for the other, I understand it. I don't necessarily say that I agree with it, but I understand it. You feel me? And then Puffy becomes synonymous with partying and bullshitting, right? You need liquor in the midst of that. So marketing wise, strategically, yeah, it may have been a shoo-in. It was a smart marriage, you know, marketing wise. It made a lot of sense. But now we're understanding that he didn't leverage his celebrity, you know what I'm saying, in the most effective and efficient way, where he had equity. He didn't have any equity in the company. He was a glorified spokesman. He was a high price influencer. Diddy started a water company called Aqua Hydrate initially with Mark Wahlberg, I believe. Mark Wahlberg. And I don't know if he was, again, he may have just been the vainglorious face of it for marketing to keep up with 50 Cent after Vitamin Water. I don't think he had ownership in that. Diddy got diddly now. Yeah, so, you know, you guys saw the news today about Revolt. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, this is a man who effectively may have been responsible for killing the revolt or killing the revolution. You know what I'm saying? He eradicated and erased it and replaced it with something that was more aspirational, where we no longer want to revolt. You know what I'm saying? We want to be part of the system. We want to be inclusive. Remember, in my in my observation of hip hop in its latest iteration, I'm just using big words for nothing, y'all. Hip hop is the result of integration. Hip hop is the crown jewel achievement of integration. Like, you could say Atlanta is the crown jewel of civil rights, right? It is the conglomeration of all things civil rights makes up Atlanta. Yeah, hip hop is the child of integration. That is what hip hop is. Hip hop is the formula, the crystallization of integration. Once integration crystallizes, then comes hip hop, and hip hop becomes what? The aspirational incantations for things that people who have now newly been integrated into this concept of America want to attain to. That's hip hop in a nutshell. It's the cries and the complaints and the aspirational prayers of the people who have just been integrated into a burning house that are still suffering from burn marks and shit like that, and skin grafts and things like, you know. No, when Drake came out in 2011, they told you that he was the new religion. They're not hiding what their plans were and are for Drake. It's always been known. You know what I'm saying? It's always been known who and what he was, and what his goals and his aims are. And he will be the new religion. Yeah. You know, once they get this old cluttered stuff up out of the way. So, yeah, you know, the revolt part is very interesting. You know, was revolt ever really, you know, revolutionary to begin with? Let me not talk shit about revolt. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. Shout out to Revolt for what it is and what it represents. You know, we know that, you know what I'm saying, programming wise, or at least from the outside looking in, we could probably say, you can do better. You can do better. But, you know, I don't know about the inner workings of Revolt. I never thought that Puffy was necessarily an active participant in Revolt. You know, I never got that out of it anyway. You know what I'm saying? I never really got that out of it. So, where does it leave us? You know what I'm saying? As hip hop, we still got to pick up the pieces. And until we are honest with ourselves, once again, about how we were improperly orientated to deal with the, you know, the women in our culture, in our society, in our family, in our neighborhoods, in our beds, you know, the women that are in our lives. If we don't get this shit right, nothing else really matters. And the only way that some shit like this can happen, the way that it happened, for as long as it has been happening, is by, you know, our willful, ignorance, neglect, and participation. We were in it to see what we can get out of it. Let's just be honest, fellas. Let's just be honest. You know, let's be honest. We participated in it long enough to see what we could get out of it. And it's destructive. It's destructive. Right? It's destructive. It's destructive to a degree, like I said, when things come full circle. And this year we get to see a Sexy Red. And men will have the nerve to be like, how did this happen? What's happening with hip hop? Nigga. Let's be for real. Let's be grown about this. Right? The culture created Sexy Red. She is a child. She might be a bastard child of the culture, but she is a child of the culture, y'all. This is what the music has created. This is the vibration that we have put out into the world. This is the messaging. You feel me? It's not time to get puritanical and to turn your nose at this shit. You got to look at like a gift horse in the motherfucking face and deal with it. Like, that's our child. That's our baby. We created that. Where's the accountability? Where's the responsibility? Yes. Lil Kim, Foxy, Kia, Trina, Nicki. All of the girls in the video for Project Check, Hood Rat Chick. Yeah. She's one of them. She come from that ilk. So we playing puritanical because it makes good for the internet. But my genius, like, no. This is the messaging that we have. Or do you understand? Look. I might do one better if I got it on deck. I had to write about this shit the other day. Y'all glad I ain't got it on deck. It's on my other phone. But, I really sat down and really had to think about this shit. And I'm like, again, accountability and responsibility. Like, the children is in the baby seats. The children is in the strollers, right? Since the bad boy era started, nigga, we wasn't turning down music because the shit was on the radio 24/7. There was a time in New York City where, like, every song after he got rid of motherfucking Wu-Tang after the Summer Jam, every single song on the radio, damn near. Okay? Every single song was Bad Boy. Right? And then hip hop became something that was so mainstream and so commercialized at that point that you just could not get away from the vibration and the frequency. And we no longer had discretion about what we should be playing around children and what we shouldn't. You feel me? And they are being programmed from the womb, let alone, like, let's not even get to the baby seat and the strollers. From the womb, from the embryonic fluid inside of the womb, amplifying those vibrations that's coming from 808, right? We just got lulled to sleep in this shit, and nobody was turning nothing down. Oh, none of that was taking place. I was there for it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the frequency to raise these children. Yes, and it was all post-crack era, so we're not even talking about the chemical induction of things that may have been going on biologically with these women who were giving birth to these children. Hence the fact that we see such a high rate of LGBT. If you slightly change the chemical composition of a developing fetus, you're going to offset the sexual development of that child. Just slightly. So we're not even talking about the shit that was going in weed, let alone the fact that you ain't supposed to be smoking weed when you're pregnant. We ain't talking about the food and all of the GMOs that was just being introduced to the body. We're not talking about the shit that they was putting in the water, right? And then you're talking about the frequencies, right? And frequencies can induce chemical changes in the body, right? You can. It's you know, we seen all of the demonstrations they've been doing with cymatics. The amniotic fluid that the baby's being grown in is water mostly. So what is sub-bass frequencies? The shit that Kanye was talking about last year this time. The fact that 808 set to a frequency of 440 hertz is destroying you at a subatomic level. It's tearing shit apart like this. It sounds like this. If you can put a speaker to it, that's what it sounds like. That's what 440 hertz sounds like. At a subatomic level, it's chaos. So that's just the frequency of the music within itself. You could be saying something positive over it. And that's what it sounds like. Let alone the fact that you're saying some shit that's off base on top of that frequency. And we have not got down to a molecular level to do the research to really see how this thing is affecting us. But look at the babies that it produces. Right? Look at the babies it produces. And luckily, drill as an art form has been losing some of its steam this year. Yes, weed as well, right? Has been studied seriously. So that all the harmless stuff that you see, that you always heard, is not fact. Yeah. All of the new research on weed is not concluding that it's harmless. That's not what the studies are showing. The studies are showing that it's creating an insurmountable amount of damage at a molecular level, especially this new stuff. So we're not up to date with our research and our studies to say what is versus what isn't taking place. But we can look at the children and say, yo, these is different babies. You know what I'm saying? These children are different. They have an inclination to want to catch a body at the age of 12. I didn't know, you know, like the anger inside of us as children. I don't think that it was like at that pinnacle point where we was hell-bent on catching bodies at the age of 12 necessarily. 440 hertz. 440 hertz is the standard frequency that all music is set to. After the Rockefellers mandated that in the 1950s, I believe, it became consecrated as law universally by the Rockefellers. In 55, I believe, they changed all of the music frequency to 440 hertz. And 440 hertz is a frequency that creates chaos, confusion, separatism, like everything that you see in society. It's a military frequency. It's a military tactic, yes. 440 hertz. And it's a box. You know, it's not circular. It's not centrifugal like a 432 hertz that goes, it's you know, 432 is flowing, it's nature, it's the heartbeat. 440 is constriction, it's a box. It's a military frequency. It's how you control a population of people. If you want to contain them and put them in a box, you use 440. That's what they've been doing. And 808 frequency as a sub-bass frequency is hitting you underneath your root chakra. It's tearing up shit that's not even being gauged energetically, that we don't even see where the sub-bass frequencies are affecting. That's how deep it's going. You know, so yes, I do want to conclude this conversation. It has been going on for quite some time, and I think that we covered a lot of base. I also want to acknowledge the fact that these conversations can be very triggering to people who have been victims of SA, you know, the acronyms for what's taking place. And SA is not just relegated to physical violations, mental, right? And there's a lot of that in this community that, you know, I've heard about and I'm hearing more about. The mental manipulation, the mental abuse, physical, you know what I'm saying, the gaslighting, the finessing, all the stuff that this community, the backbiting, just the nature of what this community, we talking about, you know, hip hop is a grander community. I'm talking about a more marginalized community that we all belong to right here in consciousness. You know what I'm saying? This is triggering to some people because for a while, young women felt like their complaints and their voices have not been heard when they have brought to the attention, yo, this person over here is doing this person did this to me, this person, da-da-da-da-da. There's a lot of that going on. So be mindful, be respectful. Don't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, have no expectations because, yeah, anything is bound to happen these days. In terms of some shit coming to light, you know, that have been festering in the dark. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to see it all, but I do want it to end. So how are you going to get around it? You know what I'm saying? How you going to get around it? Do you need to call it? You know what I'm saying? Because I think that young lady set the precedent. Like, in order to get around it, sometimes you got to put that shit on blast. You got to put it in the light. You know what I'm saying? You gotta really put the spotlight on it in order for it to motherfucking shame itself. And yeah, you know, for the things that I be hearing about, I hope them shits don't be true about said individuals throughout the community. You know what I'm saying? I be hoping. I be hoping that shit ain't true. I be hoping. But once again, for those of us who know, you know, that we were orientated in ways coming up that probably was not as beneficial, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? If any of us have done things that we feel is unbecoming of us, then we need to atone for that, right? While that is still possible to do, you know. I put an article up about this cosmic ray that came from beyond the planet the other day, and I forget the exact name. It's named after a Japanese goddess. And this Japanese goddess is, you know, she's like one of them goddesses that trod the planet and take heads. You feel me? And you know, the blood is dripping with the swords that's out here taking heads in the name of divine femininity. So I think that it's very wise, young men, you know, my brothers, you know what I'm saying? That if you got some shit that you need to deal with, you need to get in front of it ASAP. Yeah. Amasteru. Yeah. So I've been doing that. I've been taking some time out and calling people who I've heard shit about, you know what I'm saying? And I've been speaking to them, lending counsel to be like, yo, you know, I don't know if there's any truth to this, but you should be responsible enough in your own life, you know what I'm saying, to get in front of whatever you need to get in front of. You know what I mean? So that's being done for, in some respects, you know what I mean? But yeah, what about the women? You know, what becomes of them? You know what I mean? And again, in order to restore a feeling of healing in the community, the respect has to be there. And I'm trying to tell young women that across the board, the respect is not there because that's not how the culture has raised us and trained us to be respectful. You know what I'm saying? The majority of us We got mama issues as it is. You feel me? But we damn sure was not taught respect for a woman. You know what I mean? So we need we need to refurbish so many things about who we are, what we do, especially in this house that we built called hip hop, understanding that the framers of the foundation of this house themselves may have been poison fruit, if you will, right? Because they have come up against accusations. So how do we tear this house down and build it back over again? And that's not outside of the scopes of what we're capable of doing. But we haven't divorced ratchetness long enough to be like, yo, there's certain things that we need to restore. Nobody wants to take accountability, even when it comes to ratchetness, right? So even the women don't even want to take a level of accountability where they feel that, you know, this is empowering to them, for them to be in charge. And this is how you have to know that our women have been thoroughly, like, taken to the cleaners. Like, their brains have been scrambled with to such a degree where they feel like this is empowerment. So much had to have been taken from them that they feel like, oh, being in charge of my hold'em, that's where the empowerment is at. And it's like, again, we watching from a distance. So I can't say that it's not. I'm just like, damn, I wish that you would go for so much more. You deserve so much more, young women. Like, you know what I mean? The world owes you so much more than just for you to stand on business when it comes to hoeing, to be like, yeah, you know, I ain't got no pimp. I'm my own pimp. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. You know, let's go a little bit deeper. You know what I'm saying? Let's dig a little bit deeper. Again, you got no judgment. And it's only what I think. And what I think is a self-centered perspective. Because I'm not you, right? But I can only say that, you know, from what I can gauge, you can do better. It's the same way that we would tell these young men who, you know, came up in the street selling narcotics, like, you can do better. You know what I'm saying? Because you have the propensity within you to be a good businessman if you understand math on this level. If you understand, you know, the foundations of business, I think that you can, you know, parody us. You know, you can move into something that's a little bit more constructive with this know-how, this knowledge that you have. You know what I mean? And I think that it's the same thing that, you know, we should be informing these young women. Like, yo, you know, if you can garner, you know what I'm saying, a whole year's amount of rent selling that box, you can do better. You can do better. Like, you can take it to the next level. There's some other shit that you can sell, right? If you can sell Cootie Cat, you can sell homes. You know, you just got to replace what the commodity is. And if somebody's paying you to get up in your, you know, nappy dugout, you know what I'm saying, and move up in your one-room apartment, then you can parlay that know-how and sell them a 4, 5, and 6 bedroom house. You know what I'm saying? You could sell it. You could sell the whole house. If you could sell the apartment, you could sell the house. Okay? You can do better. I'm sorry. Oh, man. You can do better. Do better. You know what I'm saying? And we all gotta expect that from one another in order to get to where we are looking to get to, where we know that we can get to. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I ain't even get to talk politics. I don't know. But I appreciate y'all. Got the Cash App posted at the bottom if you want to show some love. You know what I'm saying? We put in a lot of time, a lot of energy over here with today's dissertation and demonstration. But it was needed. It was necessary. Hopefully we covered some ground and lent some clarity, you know, to this broadening conversation around accountability. Because, you know, when I take out all of the salacious details and I kind of like condense everything to, yo, what's taking place? What are we looking at? This is me speaking to my higher self. Like, what we looking at? And what we looking at is, you know, accountability. We looking at the summing up of accountability, the coalescing of accountability, the fact that somebody has to be accountable. Somebody has to fall on the sword for this shit and be like, we can do better. You know what I'm saying? We can do better. And from that acknowledgement, from falling on the sword and allowing yourself to be reborn better and new and more strong, then we can finally, you know what I mean, get to the full power dynamic of who we are and what we represent as a people. And that entails healing, right? Because we got to heal before we can move forward to do anything. And so I think, yeah, this 50 years in the house, you know, we were slowly dying from carbon monoxide poisoning while we've been in the house of hip hop for 50 years. So we need to change our environment so we can heal. You know what I mean? And yeah, I want to say thank you. I wanted to talk about the hostage situations going on in Gaza, but I'll return because, you know, I want to approach it from a different perspective. Shout out to Red Pill. I'm doing a Patreon class over on his Patreon every Wednesday, and that's really where I get to talk a lot of politics in a scholastic setting. I get to bring all of my notes in and, you know, really tie this stuff together to put it in perspective, to give us better clarity. All right? And with that, I want to say peace, y'all. Till next time. Peace.